I'm not telling this like a legend or a headline. I'm telling it the way it felt, quiet and heavy, like something that stayed with me long after the night ended. Some stories don't announce themselves. They just sit beside you and wait until you're ready to listen. Keanu Reeves didn't plan to stop that evening. He had already given enough of himself that day, conversations, smiles, patience offered to strangers who never knew how much it cost him. The city lights blurred past the window as the car slowed at a red light, rain tapping softly against the glass. That was when he saw her. She stood under the weak glow of a street lamp, arms wrapped around herself, not shivering from the cold but from something deeper. The kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from holding yourself together for too long. Her eyes weren't asking for help. They were trying not to need it. Keanu felt that familiar pull in his chest. He'd learned to listen to it over the years, even when it made no sense. He asked the driver to stop. When he stepped out, the rain soaked into his jacket immediately. She looked up, startled, ready to apologize for existing in someone else's path. He didn't rush her. He never did. He stood at a respectful distance, his voice calm, steady, human. "Are you all right?" he asked, as if the answer wouldn't matter either way. She hesitated, then nodded too quickly. A practiced response. One she'd used many times. Up close, he could see the strain in her face, the way her shoulders stayed tense even when nothing was happening. Peace wasn't something she remembered how to feel. They talked in fragments at first, nothing dramatic, small truths. She said she was just waiting. He didn't ask for what. Silence filled the spaces between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was honest. She finally laughed, short and surprised, and said, "You don't look like someone who should be standing in the rain with me." He smiled gently. "Neither do you." Something shifted then. Not trust, trust takes longer, but relief. The relief of not being alone in a moment you thought you'd have to survive by yourself. They ended up sitting inside a quiet cafe that was about to close, steam rising from chipped mugs between them. She told him about the noise in her head, how it never stopped, how even good moments felt temporary, like borrowed air. She spoke carefully, as if afraid her words might collapse under their own weight. Keanu didn't interrupt. He didn't offer solutions. He knew better than that. He listened with his whole body, the way someone listens when they understand that being heard is sometimes the only shelter a person has. When she finished, she stared into her cup, embarrassed by her honesty. That's when he said it softly, without drama. "Stay here with me tonight," he said. "Not forever, just long enough to let your mind rest." She looked at him, confusion and fear tangled together. The world had taught her that offers like that always came with a price. "I don't mean what you think," he added quickly, his voice steady, almost protective. "I mean, let me protect your peace, just for a while." No one had ever said those words to her. Protect your peace, not fix you, not save you, just protect what little quiet you still had. They walked slowly afterward, the rain easing into mist. He kept his pace matched to hers, never ahead, never pulling. When her thoughts spiraled, he grounded them in simple things, the sound of footsteps, the glow of windows, the way the city breathed at night. She told him she felt broken. He shook his head. "You're not broken," he said. "You're tired from being strong in silence." Something in her eyes cracked then. Not loudly, just enough to let a tear fall. He didn't touch her. He didn't need to. His presence was enough. But peace is fragile, and the night had other plans. As they reached the corner of the street, a familiar voice called her name. Her body stiffened instantly, all the calm they'd built collapsing in a second. Keanu felt it before he understood it, the shift, the fear, the old wounds reopening. She whispered, "I can't stay." Keanu turned toward the voice, his expression calm but unmovable. Whatever was coming, he wasn't going to step aside easily. Because in that moment, he wasn't thinking about who he was to the world. He was thinking about one simple promise. If peace had found its way to her, even briefly, he wasn't going to let it be taken without a fight. Keanu didn't move in front of her right away. He stayed beside her, close enough that she could feel his presence without feeling trapped. He noticed how her hands clenched, how her breathing shortened, how her eyes lost the softness they had found only minutes ago. The man stepped into the light, mid-30s maybe, well-dressed, calm smile that didn't reach his eyes. He looked at Keanu with mild irritation, as if he were an inconvenience, not a person. "There you are," the man said to her. "I've been calling." She nodded barely. "I told you I needed space tonight." The man laughed softly. You always say that when you're overwhelmed. Come on, let's go. Keanu finally spoke. His voice was gentle, but it carried weight. She said she needs space. The man's smile tightened. And you are? Someone listening, Keanu replied. That did it. The man's eyes flicked over Keanu, recognizing him now, and the tone shifted instantly. Polite, calculated. Look, I don't know what she told you, but this is a private matter. Keanu felt her lean back slightly, not away from him, but toward him. Unconsciously, like her body had already chosen where it felt safest. She doesn't owe you an explanation, Keanu said, and she doesn't have to go anywhere she doesn't want to. The man turned to her, lowering his voice. Don't do this here, you're embarrassing yourself. Her face flushed. Shame rose fast, familiar and sharp. Keanu saw it and understood immediately. This wasn't the first time she'd been made to feel small for needing air. I'm fine, she said quickly, the old reflex kicking in. I'll go. Keanu didn't argue with her. He simply looked at her, really looked at her, and spoke quietly so only she could hear. You don't have to disappear to keep the peace, he said. Not anymore. Her eyes filled again. She shook her head. You don't understand. If I don't go, things get worse later. That sentence landed hard in his chest. Keanu straightened slightly, turning his attention back to the man. She's staying, he said, calm but final. You should leave. The man scoffed. You think you can decide that? No, Keanu said. She already did, you just didn't listen. Silence stretched between them. Cars passed. A couple walked by, unaware of the quiet storm unfolding on the sidewalk. For a moment, Keanu wondered if the man would push it further. His jaw tightened. His hands flexed. Then, just as quickly, he stepped back, adjusting his coat like none of this mattered. Fine, he said coolly. We'll talk later. He walked away without looking back. The moment he disappeared down the street, her knees buckled slightly. Keanu reacted instantly, steadying her without pulling her close, giving support without control. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't mean to drag you into that. You didn't, he said. You survived something, that's not dragging. They stood there for a while, the adrenaline slowly draining from her body. When she finally looked up at him, her expression wasn't fear anymore. It was confusion mixed with something fragile and new. No one else ever stood up like that for me, she said. Not without wanting something back. Keanu shook his head. Peace shouldn't come with conditions. They walked again, slower this time. The city felt quieter now, like it was holding its breath. She told him more as they moved, about how long she'd been bending herself smaller to keep things from exploding, about how silence had become her coping mechanism. I don't even know who I am when things are calm, she admitted. It feels unsafe. Keanu listened, his thoughts heavy. He knew that feeling too well, the strange guilt that comes when life stops hurting as if pain were proof of worth. You learn, he said gently, not all at once, one quiet moment at a time. They reached a small park, empty at that hour. Benches damp from rain, trees swaying softly. She sat down, exhausted, and for the first time that night she exhaled fully. I don't want to go back, she said, barely audible, but I don't know how to leave. Keanu sat beside her, keeping space but staying close. Leaving isn't one decision, he said. It's a series of small ones. Tonight can just be one of them. She nodded, wiping her eyes. For a brief moment, peace settled again. Then her phone buzzed. Once, twice, again. Her face drained of color as she looked at the screen. Missed calls, messages piling up. The calm shattered instantly. She turned to Keanu, panic rising fast. He won't stop, he never does. Keanu looked at the phone, then back at her. His voice didn't change, but something deeper settled into it. Then tonight, he said quietly, you won't face it alone. But even as he said it, he knew the night wasn't done testing them. Because protecting someone's peace isn't just about standing between them and the noise. Sometimes it means helping them face the truth they've been avoiding. The phone kept buzzing in her hand, each vibration pulling her back toward a life she had learned to endure rather than choose. Keanu watched her thumb hover over the screen, the conflict written clearly on her face. She wasn't deciding whether to answer. She was deciding whether she deserved silence. Give it to me, he said gently, not as an order, but as an offer. She hesitated, then placed the phone in his palm. The weight of it surprised him, not because of the device itself, but because of everything it carried. Expectations, fear, old promises that had slowly turned into chains. He didn't read the messages. He didn't need to. He turned the phone face down on the bench between them. "For the next few minutes," he said, "nothing in there gets to decide how you feel." She let out a shaky breath, as if part of her had been holding on too tightly for too long. They sat in silence, listening to the distant hum of traffic, the rustle of leaves above them. The city felt far away now, like a different world that kept moving even when you stopped. "I used to be louder," she said suddenly. "I had opinions, dreams, I laughed without checking who might hear." Keanu nodded slowly. "What happened?" She stared straight ahead. "I learned that being quiet kept things calm." There it was, the trade she'd made without realizing the cost. Keanu leaned back slightly, rain-darkened pavement stretching out in front of them. "Peace that comes from shrinking yourself isn't peace," he said. "It's survival." She looked at him, surprised. "How do you know that?" He smiled faintly. "Because I've lived it in my own way." He didn't elaborate. He didn't have to. His honesty was in the pauses, in the way his eyes softened when he spoke about it. She swallowed. "I'm scared that if I choose myself, everything will fall apart." "Some things might," he said truthfully, "but the ones that matter will finally have room to breathe." Her eyes glistened again, but this time the tears didn't fall. She was listening, really listening. A group of teenagers passed by, laughing loudly, unaware of the quiet transformation happening on a damp park bench. Keanu watched them for a moment. "Do you know what courage looks like most days?" he asked. "It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's choosing not to abandon yourself when it would be easier to disappear." She let those words sink in, her shoulders relaxing just a little. "I don't know how to start," she admitted. He reached for the phone and slid it back toward her but didn't let go immediately. "Start by deciding what you won't accept anymore," he said. "You don't have to announce it, just know it." She took the phone, this time without flinching. Another message came in. She read it, jaw tightening. Then, for the first time, she didn't respond. She locked the screen and placed the phone in her pocket. "I feel like I'm doing something wrong," she said quietly. Keanu smiled gently. "That's what growth feels like when you're not used to it." They stood up to leave the park, the air cooler now, heavier with the promise of dawn somewhere beyond the clouds. As they walked, she told him about the life she'd postponed. The job she wanted but never applied for. The apartment she dreamed of having alone. The version of herself she'd packed away to keep the peace. Keanu listened, imagining her future not as a perfect escape, but as a path built step by step. At the corner, she stopped suddenly. "What if I go back tomorrow?" she asked. "What if I'm not strong enough to leave?" He didn't judge her, he didn't rush to reassure her. He simply answered honestly. "Then tomorrow you try again," he said. "Strength isn't proven by never falling back, it's proven by noticing when you deserve better." Her eyes searched his face, as if looking for permission she'd never been given before. In the distance, a car slowed, headlights sweeping across the street. The same car from earlier. Her breath caught. "That's him." Keanu's posture shifted instantly, not tense but ready, protective in a way that came from choice, not ego. But this time, before he could step forward, she reached out and gently held his arm. "No," she said softly, "let me handle this." Keanu paused, then nodded, stepping back just enough to let her stand on her own, without leaving her alone. She squared her shoulders as the car came to a stop nearby. Her fear was still there, but something else stood beside it now. Resolve. And for the first time, Keanu realized that protecting her peace might soon mean letting her protect it herself. The car door opened, and the night held its breath. The man stepped out of the car slowly, like he had all the time in the world. His confidence hadn't changed, but something in his eyes had. He sensed the shift before anyone said a word, the distance in her posture, the way she stood without folding into herself. "Get in," he said, keeping his voice low. "We'll talk." She didn't move. For a second, the old instinct tried to surface. Keanu saw it flicker across her face, the reflex to smooth things over to make it easier for everyone else. But it passed. She took a breath, deep and steady, and spoke. "I'm not going with you." The words hung in the air, fragile and strong at the same time. The man frowned, glancing at Keanu. "Is this because of him?" She shook her head. "No, this is because of me." Keanu felt a quiet pride rise in his chest. He didn't step in. He stayed where he was, present but silent, exactly where she needed him. The man exhaled sharply, irritation slipping through his control. "You're overreacting. You always do this when you get emotional." She met his eyes. Her voice trembled, but she didn't stop. "I get emotional because you don't listen." For a moment, the street felt too small, too exposed. The man looked around, aware now of passing cars, of windows with lights still on. "Let's not do this here," he muttered. She shook her head again. "I'm doing it here because I won't be quiet anymore." Silence followed, real silence, not the kind she used to carry for him. He took a step closer. Keanu moved instantly, not aggressively, just enough to make his presence impossible to ignore. The man stopped. "You don't get to scare me into agreeing anymore," she continued, her voice steadier now. "I need space, and I'm taking it." The man laughed, sharp and dismissive. "You think this ends well for you?" She swallowed, fear flashed, but it didn't win. "I don't know, but staying hasn't ended well either." That was the moment something broke. The man's expression hardened. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, realizing there was nothing left to control. Without another word, he got back into the car and slammed the door. Tires screeched as he pulled away, anger trailing behind him like exhaust. The street returned to its quiet rhythm. Her knees weakened instantly. Keanu caught her elbow, steadying her as she leaned against a nearby wall. She covered her mouth, tears spilling freely now, not from fear, but from release. "I did it," she whispered. "I actually did it." Keanu nodded, his voice low and warm. "You chose yourself." She laughed through her tears, almost disbelieving. "It feels terrifying and right." They walked again, slower this time, the weight of what had just happened settling in. Every step felt unreal, like she might wake up and find herself back in the old pattern. "What if he comes back?" she asked. Keanu didn't lie. "Then we'll deal with that too, one step at a time." They reached a quiet building with a soft yellow light glowing in the lobby. She stopped at the entrance, hesitation creeping in. "I don't know what happens tomorrow," she said. "I don't even know where I'll go." "You don't need the whole map tonight," Keanu replied. "You just need somewhere safe to rest." She looked at him, truly looked at him now, not as a stranger, not as a protector, but as a human who had stayed when it mattered. "Why did you stop for me?" she asked. "You could have driven past." He thought for a moment. "Because I know what it feels like to carry pain quietly and have no one notice." They stood there, the door between them and whatever came next. The night felt thinner now, like dawn was closer than it had any right to be. She took a breath. "Can you stay for a little while longer?" Keanu smiled softly. "As long as you need." But even as they stepped inside, he knew this wasn't the end of the storm. Because choosing peace is one thing. Living with the consequences of that choice is another. The hallway was quiet in the way places are when most of the world is asleep. Soft light pooled along the floor, and their footsteps echoed gently, as if the building itself was listening. She moved slowly now, the adrenaline fading, leaving behind a deep, bone-tired calm that felt unfamiliar. Inside the small apartment, she set her keys down and leaned against the door, closing her eyes. For a moment, she didn't speak. She just breathed. "I don't remember the last time I felt this still," she said finally. "It's like my body doesn't trust it yet." Keanu nodded. Stillness can feel dangerous when you're used to noise. She offered a tired smile and sat on the edge of the couch, fingers twisting together. The place was modest, clean, carefully kept. Everything suggested a life lived cautiously, as if she were always ready to leave at a moment's notice. "You can sit," she said, realizing he was still standing. "You don't have to stay on guard." He sat across from her, relaxed but attentive, the kind of presence that didn't demand anything. Minutes passed, then more, silence again, but this time it didn't feel heavy. "I keep thinking," she said, staring at the floor, "that he'll show up tomorrow and tell me I ruined everything, that I overreacted, that this is my fault." Keanu leaned forward slightly. "And if he does?" She hesitated. "I'm scared I'll believe him." He didn't rush his response. "That fear makes sense," he said, "but tonight you proved something important." She looked up. "What?" "That your voice works," he said gently, "even when it shakes." Her eyes filled again, slower this time, thoughtful. "I spent so long thinking strength meant endurance, just staying." Endurance is only strength when it leads somewhere, Keanu replied. Otherwise, it's just pain stretched out over time. She nodded, absorbing the truth of it. Outside, a siren passed in the distance, fading quickly, like a reminder that the world kept moving whether she was ready or not. What if I miss him? She asked quietly. What if I miss the version of him I hoped he'd be? Keanu's expression softened. Missing a dream doesn't mean you were wrong to wake up. She exhaled a long, slow release. Her shoulders dropped, tension easing in small increments. She looked around the room, then back at him. I don't want you to think I'm asking you to save me, she said. I know you can't. He smiled, warm and honest. I wouldn't want to, he said. You're already doing the hard part. Another pause, this one felt different, intentional. I'm going to sleep, she said at last. I don't know if I'll sleep well, but I want to try. That's enough for tonight, Keanu said, standing. Trying is enough. At the door, she stopped him, uncertainty flickering back in. Will you stay close, just until I fall asleep? He didn't misunderstand her. He didn't romanticize it. He understood exactly what she was asking for. Of course, he said, I'll be right here. She disappeared into the bedroom, leaving the door slightly open. The light dimmed. The apartment settled into a quiet rhythm. Keanu sat alone now, hands resting on his knees, listening to the faint sounds of her breathing evening out. He thought about how fragile peace was in its earliest moments, how easily the past could reach in and try to reclaim its ground. His phone vibrated in his pocket. He ignored it. Then it vibrated again. And again. He checked the screen once, his expression tightening. A message from an unknown number. Tell her she can't hide forever. Keanu locked the phone and set it face down, jaw firm. He looked toward the bedroom door where she slept, finally resting after a long night of choosing herself. He whispered, barely audible, as if making a promise to the quiet room. Not tonight. But he knew the truth. Morning was coming. And with it, a final test neither of them could avoid. Morning arrived softly, like it didn't want to scare anyone. Pale light slipped through the curtains, touching the walls, the floor, the quiet places where the night had finally loosened its grip. She woke slowly, disoriented at first. Then memory returned, the street, the words she'd spoken, the choice she'd made. Her chest tightened, but this time she didn't shrink. She sat up and listened. The apartment was quiet, safe. She stepped into the living room and found Keanu near the window, coffee in hand, watching the city wake up. He turned when he heard her, offering a gentle smile that carried no expectations. Did you sleep? He asked. A little, she said, more than I thought I would. That counts. They sat together at the small table, the ordinary ritual of morning grounding something that had felt unreal hours earlier. She wrapped her hands around the warm mug, breathing in deeply. I keep waiting for the fear to come back, she admitted, for the doubt. It will, Keanu said honestly, but it won't own you the way it used to. She nodded, appreciating that he didn't sugarcoat the truth. Her phone lay on the table between them, face down, silent. She looked at it for a long moment. I think I need to change things, she said. My number, my routines, maybe even this place. Keanu leaned back, thoughtful. Change doesn't erase the past, he said, but it can stop it from knocking on your door. She smiled faintly. I used to think leaving meant failing. And now it feels like choosing to live. They finished their coffee in comfortable quiet. Then Keanu stood, slipping on his jacket. The moment had arrived, gentle but undeniable. You don't have to go, she said quickly, then stopped herself. She laughed softly. I mean, I know you will, I just wanted to say thank you. He met her eyes, steady and kind. You don't owe me anything, he said. You did this. She hesitated, then spoke from a place that felt newly unlocked. You didn't save me, she said, but you stayed long enough for me to save myself. Keanu smiled, something quiet and moved passing across his face. At the door he paused. Promise me one thing. She nodded. What? When the world gets loud again, he said, don't forget this version of yourself, the one who chose peace even when it was terrifying. I won't, she said, and for the first time she believed it. He stepped outside, the door closing softly behind him. She stood there for a moment, feeling the echo of everything that had changed in less than 24 hours. Then she turned back into her apartment. She opened the curtains fully, letting the light in. She picked up her phone and deleted the old number without rereading a single message. Her hands shook, but she didn't stop. Outside, Keanu walked down the street, blending back into the rhythm of the city. He didn't look back, not because it didn't matter, but because he trusted what had been built. Peace didn't need a guardian anymore. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low and the city softened again, she stood by the window and felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Not relief, not happiness, something quieter, safety. And somewhere across the city, without knowing why, Keanu felt it too. The simple truth that sometimes, the greatest act of protection isn't staying forever. It's staying just long enough to remind someone that their peace is worth protecting, by themselves.